Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're digging into a $12 billion corporate mystery. It's a massive case study about process excellence gone horribly, tragically wrong. And honestly, it's a blinking red warning light for anyone relying on AI project management tools today. If you're using dashboards to gauge the health of your projects, you really need to hear this.
Let's start with a seriously bizarre contradiction. Back in GE's 1998 annual report, CEO Jack Welch openly admitted something wild. He said, "We've come to understand that we were not measuring what our customers cared about." I mean, think about that. He's openly admitting a glaring flaw in a system that the entire business world thought was bulletproof. And to understand the sheer scale of the trap Welch was talking about, we have to look at GE's Six Sigma program. Between 1996 and 2001, GE reported a staggering $12 billion in savings from this program. $12 billion! It was literally the most celebrated quality initiative in corporate history. Business schools were teaching it, consultants were making a fortune selling it, GE's stock was going to the moon, but beneath that shiny $12 billion surface, GE was secretly laying the groundwork for an absolute catastrophe.
Historical records show this really fascinating timeline, a rapid rise and a sudden, brutal fall of a measurement system that looked flawless on paper. Okay, so in 1996, GE launches Six Sigma. By 1997, they're already bragging about $700 million in savings. But then, just a year later at 98, they acknowledge that massive customer gap we just talked about. Welch retires in 2001, and then, boom, the time bomb goes off in 2008 with the massive, desperate rescue of GE Capital. So how on earth did a system that saved billions lead to such a catastrophic blind spot? Let's break it down.
Section 1. The crime scene. Optimizing the metric. You can actually trace the root cause of this systemic failure right back to GE's 1996 annual report. When they rolled out Six Sigma, they did something that seemed smart at the time. They tied executive bonuses directly to quality metrics. Promotions literally required certification. And, the logic makes sense, right? Mandatory adoption plus financial incentives should equal massive culture change. But here's the catch. When you tie a person's livelihood to a specific number, they're going to naturally optimize for that number. And when they do, the actual underlying goal, which is making a better product, starts to totally drift out of focus.
Their 1998 annual report perfectly highlights this crazy divide. Six Sigma was incredibly good at measuring internal variation and repeatable workflows. So, internally, defect metrics on the factory floor were looking great. Line goes up, everyone cheers. But out in the real world, customers felt absolutely zero difference in product reliability or responsiveness. It just goes to show, a measurement system can be insanely precise and well implemented internally while measuring the completely wrong thing for the actual business.
Section 2. Forensic evidence. The incentivized reality.
This whole setup created a massive reporting integrity problem. Thomas Piasek points this out in his 2003 book, The Six Sigma Handbook. The methodology for calculating those billions of dollars in savings, it was developed entirely internally, and crucially, it lacked any independent auditing. Business unit leaders were allowed to count cost avoidances, meaning they could claim they prevented future costs rather than actually cutting real existing ones. Now, these leaders weren't necessarily committing outright fraud, but the incentive structure, it unconsciously pushed everyone to frame their projects in the most positive, savings-heavy light possible. Everybody just tilted the scales a little bit.
And all this metric obsession turned into what a 2012 McKinsey quarterly retrospective called a credential trap. They found that organizations treating Six Sigma purely as a certification program actually saw 40% lower sustained improvement rates. Why? Because they were literally just training people to pass exams, not building a genuine culture where people are trained to spot real problems. By the early 2000s, getting a Six Sigma black belt at GE had basically devolved into a fancy resume booster. It was like collecting a karate trophy without ever learning how to fight. The critical, human judgment you need to spot true business risks was completely replaced by a piece of paper.
Section 3. The Catastrophe. The 2008 blind spot.
GE Capital, their massive financial wing, relied heavily on the standard Six Sigma methodology. The famous DMIAC loop. Define, measure, analyze, improve, control. And look, that framework is undeniably powerful for risk management. But, and this is a huge but, it only works if you're dealing with known historical variations. It's brilliant for a closed system, like a factory assembly line. But financial markets, yeah, they are definitely not closed systems.
Which brings us to a concept from our forensic investigation called a structural discontinuity. This is essentially an event that falls completely outside the historical range of a statistical model. When a structural discontinuity hits, models that are calibrated strictly to past behavior completely break down. They fail. The 2007 to 2008 financial crisis was exactly that, a massive structural discontinuity. It was completely invisible to GE's precise Six Sigma models because the catastrophic event existed way outside of the historical data they were religiously tracking.
And the result of that? A $50 billion blind spot. According to GE's 2009 SEC filings and reporting from the New York Times, GE Capital ended up holding massive exposure when the commercial paper market suddenly froze. Because the corporate culture had trained everyone to just blindly trust the models and pass the exams, nobody had the independent judgment to stop and ask, hey, what are the models missing? It ultimately forced GE into needing a multi-billion-dollar government rescue.
Section 4. The Imminent Threat. AI in 2026.
Okay, so now let's fast forward to today, to 2026. Project management tech has evolved at light speed, but human nature? Not so much. The exact same historical failure mode we just unpacked is likely operating silently inside your modern tech stack right now. Based on our investigation, you really have to ask yourself, is your AI dashboard today's version of the Six Sigma scorecard? Are you just staring at a sea of green lights, assuming your project is perfectly healthy just because the algorithm says so? Because if you're relying on AI to score project health and manage risk without actively questioning its underlying metrics, you are walking straight into the exact same multi-billion-dollar trap that caught GE.
Just look at modern PM practices today. We've got AI risk engines automatically scoring our dependencies. We have AI health dashboards flagging issues across massive programs. But you have to remember the core limitation. AI measures only what it was specifically trained to measure. These modern tools are precise, they're consistent, and yes, they're genuinely useful, just like Six Sigma was. But they suffer from the exact same dangerous gap between what can be neatly quantified on a screen and what actually matters out in reality. AI can't measure your customers' true feelings, and it certainly cannot predict a structural discontinuity.
Let me leave you with this final, crucial thought from our findings. The most dangerous thing about a precise model is that it makes you stop asking what it doesn't contain. Your dashboard is supposed to be an input for your human judgment, not a replacement for it. GE's ultimate failure wasn't that they measure things, it's that they completely stopped asking if the measurements were actually right. So think about your own projects today. Is your AI dashboard driving reality? Or is it just another layer of measurement theater, lulling your critical judgment to sleep?